Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and it's time to venture onto Paladins in the Shadowlands alpha testing and preview of where classes are at. This is again early build of Shadowlands, so this isn't finalized and the numbers aren't perfect, but we also do have recount this time. The recount numbers, as you watch this video, aren't final. So Blizzard is still doing a lot of the balancing and testing, and they do this as a very last thing, so don't worry about the numbers. But relatively to where everybody else is at, Paladins are in a pretty good spot, I would say, overall. So let's get into where Paladins are, starting off with the Holy Paladin as it is from the top of the row. We'll take a look at everything that's new from the spellbook to class-based abilities, and take a look at some of the talents and introduce a bit of the gameplay. So taking a look at the Paladin spellbook, you got a lot more abilities for each spec of Paladin that are part of the class-based abilities, and I mean a lot of them. So it seems that almost like there's no difference between Paladins. Your Red Paladin, Protection Paladin, and Holy Paladin will have very similar utility that they bring to the groups, and incredible amounts of utility. So let's take a look at everything that is new for Paladins. First of all, each Paladin is going to have Avenging Wrath, 2-minute cooldown, so you won't have that Vision of Perfection baked into it. Increases damage, healing, and critical strike chance by 30% for 25 seconds. Your first ability based on your spec will be a crit for Holy. It is Holy Shock. You also have Blessing of Freedom on a 25-second cooldown, immunity for slows for 8 seconds, Blessing of Protection for 5 minutes, 10 seconds, immunity to physical damage, does create forbearance for 30 seconds, base Blessing of Sacrifice that will reduce the target's damage by 30%. You suffer 75% of that damage after last 12 seconds or until it drops you below 20% health and then cuts off. 2-minute cooldown. Consecration is also based for all specs of Paladin. You will be... Oh, wait. Okay, I actually have these abilities in the wrong order now. Good thing I checked this earlier. But you have Consecration base for all specs, limit to one area. Crusader Aura, and auras may come back somewhat. Crusader Aura increases mount speed by 20% for all party and raid members within 40 yards. If you're leveling together with a Paladin, your movement speed together with a Paladin will be much better. So if you want to pair up with a Pally that has Crusader Aura, getting around Shadowlands is going to be easier. Every Paladin has Crusader Strike. For all of them, it costs mana, even for red. So this is going to be very interesting to take a look at. It is reduced by haste, generates 1 holy power, which all Paladins have holy power again, and maximum 2 charges. Devotion Aura is your defensive aura that you provide to your allies. With Devotion Aura, party and raid members within 40 yards are bolstered. Devotion damage taken reduced by 3%, which doesn't sound like a lot compared to the original Devotion Aura, but every single Paladin has it, and stacking Paladins within a group, I believe, stacks this buff as a flat 3% for everybody, instead of this diminishing return. Like, the less allies you have, the bigger this buff is. You still have Divine Shield. It's 3.5-minute cooldown, but I believe that is because of one of the talents. So if, let's say, you go for Cavalier, it is still a 5-minute cooldown, 8 seconds of pure immunity, still causes forbearance. Divine Steed is going to be the main mobility ability in the game. Some Paladins don't like it, and they want some other toolkits from older expansions to be back, but this is still here from BFA and Legion. We still have Flash of Light, still have Hammer of Justice, minute cooldown, 6-second stun. Hammer of Wrath is available for all Paladin specs as well. It will be used as an execute with ways to upgrade it later. It'll do quite a bit of holy damage and generates holy power. Hand of Reckoning is your taunt. Lay on Hands is still 10 minutes. Redemption is your B-res, or res, not B-res. Retribution Aura is interesting. It is yet another aura. When any party or raid member within 40 yards dies, you gain Avenging Wrath for 8 seconds. So inside of a battleground, this could really be good if you're expecting for your allies to start falling, or if you are inside of a raid and you're expecting someone to die, swap it to a Retribution Aura could be good. So in a sense, Paladins might end up doing some aura swapping, and they still might add more auras to Paladins in the future, but this one is interesting to bring back. Shield of Righteous is available for all specs, and for Holy, it does do a bit of holy damage, since it's Holy, you're going to be running a shield for the most part anyway. And it will also increase armor, maybe some PvP potential. Turn Evil makes a return in the game, 15-second cooldown. The power of light compels an undead, aberration, or demon target to flee, destroying them for 40 seconds. This is perfect because in Shadowlands there's a lot of undead, so Turn Evil will be quite good for the crowd control. Word of Glory makes a return as a base Paladin ability. It costs 3 holy power since holy power is back in the menu, and it'll heal a friendly target for quite a bit of heal. Essentially, with Holy Power returning, it could make Holy Paladins even better mana-wise, and I thought they were pretty good already in BFA. You also can unlock Concentration Aura at a later time. Interrupt and silence effects on a party or raid members within 40 yards are 30% shorter. This could be incredibly good in PvP, but choosing between that and choosing between Devotion Aura, that can sometimes be tough. You also earn Sense Undead, which is a flavor ability, allowing you to track undeads on the map. Retribution Aura rank 2 to increase the duration of the wings that you get from Retribution Aura by 4 seconds, so it'll go from 8 seconds to 12 seconds. And then finally, Hammer of Wrath rank 2. Hammer of Wrath may be used on any target while Avenging Wrath is up, so during wings you'll be able to throw around extra hammers, which is going to be great for all 3 specs as extra Holy Power generation and overall more damage. Going into the actual Holy Paladin abilities, and this is a spec that I'm not fully well versed. It isn't a spec that I kind of play regularly on my Paladin, but I did as much research as I could. There's a good chance I will miss a couple key things, but I'll be able to get majority of what is new. Absolution is going to be your main group res. Aura Master is still in the game at a 3-minute cooldown for chosen aura, empowers your chosen aura for 8 seconds. So with Crusader Aura, it will give mount speed bonus increased by 60% for your allies. And you move kind of quick. I feel like this could be really good in a battleground maybe. Maybe it could be good out in the open world. I don't think it works with Divine Steed, but maybe it does. Very interesting combo. You also have Devotion Aura, which will give 15% damage reduction. Aura Master only available to Holy, so the Olms will be able to take advantage of this. And with Retribution Aura, Avenging Wrath duration increased by 50%. I do wonder how this will work together with Concentration Aura, but since I'm not level 52, we can't really test that. You see how Beacon of Light as your main ability, wrap a single ally with holy energy, causing your heals on other party members to also heal the ally for 50% on unhealed. And this is going to be an interesting part here as well. Healing an ally directly with Flash of Light or Holy Light grants 1 Holy Power, which, if you're wondering how you're going to get Holy Power, Blizzard decided to bake it into your basic abilities. So healing an ally that has Beacon of Light, whether you're using Holy Light or Flash of Light, you will generate Holy Power, which then you could use to gain yourself Word of Glories. So that's kind of how I guess Blizzard is going to center the spec of Holy Paladin, with Holy Power generation coming back into the game. Cleanse is still in the game. Disease, Poison, and Magic is what you'll be removing. Divine Protection is a minute cooldown. Reduces all damage taken by 20% for 8 seconds. Holy Light is an efficient heal, healing a friendly target for quite a bit. Holy Shock is your bread and butter. Fairly short cooldown, reduced with haste. Does holy damage or healing to an ally, has additional 30% critical chance, and generates 1 Holy Power. Judgment is also base. It damages an enemy for a bit of holy damage, and the next Crusader Strike or Holy Shock will be 30% more effective. Light of Dawn costs Holy Power now, so you can't use this ability anytime you want to. You will need to use some Holy Shocks and Holy Lights and some casts before you can cast Light of Dawn. Unleashes a wave of holy energy, healing up to 5 injured allies within a 15-yard frontal cone, so the same as it is on live. Light of the Martyr is still in the game. It'll sacrifice mana, but also a portion of your health to insta-cast heal an ally. It does not cause Beacon of Light to be healed, so you have interaction with Beacon of Light as you heal others. That's not a beacon. Beacon target also gets a portion of that healing, so this still doesn't function with it. From there we have Infusion of Light. Your critical shocks reduce the casting of your next flashlight by 30%, by 30% seconds. Okay, that's a little bit weird wording. Or increase the healing of your next Holy Light by 30%. So when you pop on yourself, this is different for this expansion. Holy Shock, it normally increases if it procs. It increases the cast speed of your Holy Light and effectiveness of your Flashlight. But instead it will make Flashlight go even faster as emergency heal, or a stronger long Holy Light, which is a big change. So usually it speeds up the Holy Light cast because it's already a long cast of heal, or empowers Flashlight to be a little stronger. So this is going to be an interesting big change, particularly in PvP. Your Master is still going to be increased healing based off of your proximity to allies. Taking a look at the talents for Paladin, we still have Crusader's Might that will reduce Holy Shock cooldown with Crusader Strikes, allowing for a melee Paladin playstyle. Bestow of Faith is a 12-second cooldown with quite a bit of healing. Light's Hammer, I never use it. I don't really know if there's that much change to it. In the second row at level 25, you have Saved by the Light. When an ally with your Beacon of Light is damaged below 30% health, they absorb the next 1,000 damage, and this number will change as we get higher level and by the end of the expansion. You cannot shield the same person this way twice within 1 minute. So essentially, it seems that you are able, let's say in a raid, to put a Beacon of Light on somebody, they'll drop below in health, they'll get a shield. Then you do a tank swap, so another tank tanks the boss. You could swap your Beacon of Light to another ally. If they drop below health, you will still give them a shield. So this is like a debuff you'll put up on an ally that you can only save them once every minute, but you can cast it on multiple different allies, so you can kind of chain save allies, which could have some value. Judgment of Light. Judgment causes your next 25 successful attacks against the target to heal attacker. So this is gonna again be part of the melee, or I guess like a pseudo melee Paladin. You'll just throw a Judgment, and as allies auto attack the enemy or attack him, they'll also be healed. Holy Prism, it will fire a light that scatters to strike a clump of targets. You'll either hit an enemy to heal allies in a clump, or hit an ally to hit enemies in a clump. I don't really use Holy Prism, so I don't really know if it's that much different. We have in level 30, Fist of Justice. Holy Power spend reduces the main cooldown of your hammer adjusted by 2 seconds. So that's a little bit of a change instead of, however, whatever mechanic you use. I think it uses either Judgment or Holy Shocks from BFA. Repentance, 15-second cooldown, forces an enemy to meditate incapacitated for 1 minute, or Blinding Light at a 1.5 minute cooldown. Then you have level 35, Tier Unbreakable Spirit, reduces cooldown of Divine Shield, Divine Protection, Allay Enhanced by 30%, Cavalier for 2 charges of Divine Steed or Rule of Law, 30-second recharge 2 charges, increases the range and heals of your reach with Master Lightbringer by 50% for 10 seconds. Then we have level 40, and this whole row right here is going to be the same for every single Paladin, which is going to create a lot of different choices of how you play your spec. You have level 40 Divine Purpose. Holy Power abilities have a 50% chance to make your next Holy Power ability free and deal 20% increased damage or healing. Or Holy Avenger, for the 3-minute cooldown, your Holy Power generation is tripled for 20 seconds. So essentially, if you have Holy Avenger up, you are able to, let's say, flash a light, a beacon target into a Word of Glory, into flash a light, or Holy Light into Word of Glory, or flash a light into Holy Word of Glory, or Holy Shock into Word of Glory, and just keep spamming, dishing out massive amounts of heals every 3 minutes, which could be insane. Or Seraphim, for 45-second cooldown, takes 3 Holy Power. The light magnifies your power for 15 seconds, granting loads of haste, critical strike, mastery, and versatility, and this could be really strong for all specs of Paladin. Level 45, you have Sanctified Wrath. Avenging Wrath lasts 25% longer and also reduces the Holy Shock cooldown by 50%. Or you can go for Melee Wings, 2-minute cooldown for your wings, and your auto attacks, Crusader Strike and Judgment, also do more damage, but also they heal allies, which is, I always enjoyed that playstyle. Awakening is still in the game, but I don't know if a lot of people use it. Light of Dawn has a 50% chance to grant you Avenging Wrath for 10 seconds. Level 50, you have Glimmer of Light coming as a trait into talents, and it's in an interesting row. So Glimmer of Light, I believe, is about the same as it is on live. It still has the 8 target cap, but it's on the same row as Beacon of Faith. Mark a second target with Beacon, mimicking the effects of Beacon of Light. Your healers will now heal both your beacons at 30% reduced effectiveness. Beacon of Faith targets that you heal with Holy Light do not reward Holy Power, however. They might adjust this in the future, but right now, it does not reward extra Holy Power, only your main Beacon of Light target, which might make Beacon of Faith maybe less good, but we'll see. Then there's Beacon of Virtue. Replaces Beacon of Light, 15-second cooldown. Apply Beacon of Light on your target and 3 injured allies within 30 yards for 8 seconds. All affected allies will be healed for 50% of the amount other healing is done. Your Flash of Light and Holy Light on those targets will grant 1 Holy Power because it does replace Beacon of Light. So this is a very interesting choice of talents for Holy Paladins to play, but it's going to be even more interesting when you take a look at Prot as well as Ret. Now, the healing with Holy Paladin is pretty similar. It is a little different because now you have the resource bar with Holy Power to manage. So It'll be very interesting to see if Paladins will enjoy this or not. Essentially, this gives you an extra resource to play with, and a resource to store up for emergency situations. For example, not always in a dungeon or raid is your tank taking insane damage, forcing you to just flashlight heal them the whole time. So, in most cases, you'll just be trying to manage your tanks with massive Holy Shock crits. And then you'll be getting big procs for Holy Light, which you can use to spot heal allies or heal your tank, and you'll passively generate Holy Power over time. And then you'll have Holy War or Word of Glory for emergency situations and instant cast just to get an ally up and running. So with your Holy Shocks, you'll most likely be using on your non-beacon target unless they're taking a lot of damage, so then you can get more value on Holy Power. And you will want to heal your tanks with Holy Light or Flashlight to gain the Holy Power, but again, you can always adjust your situation if, let's say, someone's taking a lot of damage but the tank is fine. But it gives you a lot more, I feel like, tools to play with in terms of just being able to effectively heal multiple targets, especially in a smaller size group. It also seems that Blizzard is trying to promote melee playstyle for Paladins as well, by allowing you to go Glimmer and Avenging Crusader. Normally you would go Sanctified Wrath, so you're able to get yourself a lot of Holy Shocks, and you're able to go with Crusader Might, so you go up in melee to the boss, you pop your wings, and you Holy Shock an ally, then you'll Crusader Strike the enemy a couple times until your Holy Shock is back, so you Holy Shock an ally, use Crusader Strikes to get back Holy Shocks, and you'll just spread Glimmers everywhere. And now you can combine that together with an Avenging Crusader where you're auto-attacking, Crusader Striking, which you already are doing for Crusader's Might to get Glimmers back, or to spread Glimmers. You also can throw in Judgments to generate extra healing. Not only are you able to provide damage, and this is pretty good damage during Avenging Crusader, but you're also able to spread Glimmers everywhere else. So it gives you a lot more freedom in how you play your character. You have Saved by Light, which I think is a cool utility. You have Seraphim and Holy Avenger and Divine Purpose, which are going to be, I feel like, big playmakers. Depending on the fight, one of these talents I think could be huge in saving your allies or really topping the charts in healing meters. I find it kind of interesting the Glimmer of Light is in the same row as Beacon, and I wonder if it'll overpower the rest of these talents. Outside of that, Paladins feel pretty great. I'm honestly a huge fan of the melee playstyle, and I like how they're able to facilitate that with Avenging. I like being able to go in and do damage. I like the Judgment of Light playstyle. It's like, here, I'll judgment the enemy, you heal yourselves. Just hit harder. I like it overall. I actually think it just feels really good to play. The numbers are going to be adjusted for sure. So if the Paladins, let's say, are not doing good on the alpha number-wise right now, healing-wise, the playstyle feels really fun. And I enjoy it because it's very engaging. So numbers will come and they'll be adjusted in the future. But overall, the play is fun. The next spec we'll be talking about is Protection, and I gotta adjust some of these abilities here. So Protection is not too much different in the Paladin row. Avenging Wrath is going to make your next Word of Glory a critical strike, so you can kind of see where Protection has been changed slightly. From here on, we go to the Protection-based abilities, starting with Ardent Defender, 1.4 minute cooldown, reduces all damage you take by 20% for 8 seconds. Do I have a talent that reduces this ability further? I believe that I do. So normally, it would be a 2-minute cooldown. Reduces all damage you take by 20% for 8 seconds while Ardent Defender is active. The next attack that would otherwise kill you will instead bring you to 20% of your maximum health. Then we have Avenger's Shield, reduced by haste. It does a bit of holy damage, interrupting and silencing non-player targets for 3 seconds, and then jump into 2 additional nearby enemies. Generates 1 holy power. Cleanse toxins, so you can cleanse from an ally poisons and disease effect. Guardian of Ancient Kings at a 5-minute cooldown empowers you with the spirits of Ancient Kings, reducing all damage you take by 50% for 8 seconds. Hammer of the Righteous to replace your Crusader Strike. Hammers the current target for a bit of physical damage. While you're standing in your consecration, Hammer Righteous also causes a wave of light that hits all other targets within 8 yards for holy damage. Generates 1 holy power and maximum 2 charges. Rebuke for you Interrupt. We have Grand Crusader still. When you avoid a melee attack or use Hammer of the Righteous, you have a 50% chance to reset the remaining cooldown of your Avenger's Shield. Mastery is Divine Bulwark, increases your chance to block melee attacks by set amount based on Mastery, reduces damage taken while inside a consecration, also increases attack power. Repose passive, gain parry equal to 100% of your crit, and Shining Light passive, Judgment reduces the cost of your Word of Glory by 1. Taking a look at some of the talents, we have Holy Shield in the first row. Block chance increases by 15, you're able to block ranged attacks. And they'll be able to, well, spell effects, and they'll be able to be reflected for a bit of holy damage. Redoubt. Shield of Righteous increases your strength and stamina by 2% for 6 seconds, stacking up to 3. Blessed Hammer replaces Hammer of Righteous and causes hammers to spin around you, doing a bit of holy damage, and reducing the next damage the enemies deal to you by a bit. Generates 1 holy power, 3 charges. Then you have in level 25 row, First Avenger. Avenger's Shield hits 2 additional targets and grants you an absorb for 100% of the damage deals. So this is a slightly different one. It's taken a trait and baked it into a talent, but it's in the same row as Crusader's Judgment. Judgment has 2 charges, and Grand Crusader now also grants a charge of Judgment. Or Moment of Glory. During Ardent Defender, every melee attack against you triggers Grand Crusader. Grand Crusader is this buff right here. So every melee attack against you gives you free Avenger's Shield. So if you're in a Mythic Plus and you're stuck and just getting hammered by a bunch of mobs, pop Ardent Defender for 8 seconds. You can just spam your Avenger's Shield if you want to. And that can do quite a bit of damage, can do a lot of interrupt and generate a lot of holy power during that time. So that's a very interesting talent choice. Level 30 we have Fist of Justice. Holy power spent reduces the remaining cooldown of Hammer Justice by 2 seconds. Repentance, as we saw before, and Blinding Light. Level 35 we still have Unbreakable Spirit for all Paladins, Cavalier, and Blessing of Spell Warding. The remaining cooldown replaces Blessing of Protection, and while Blessing of Protection makes you immune to physical abilities, this makes you immune to magical abilities. Level 40 we have Divine Purpose, like every other spec with exactly the same values, with Holy Avenger and Seraphim in this whole row. In the next row, level 45, we have Hand of Protector. Word of Glory's healing is increased by the target's missing health on any target, so this makes it Word of Glory heal for more if you use it on an ally, but if you don't, still it has increased healing for yourself. Consecrated Ground. Your ground consecration is 15% larger, and enemies within it have 50 reduced movement speed. And finally, Judgment of Light. Judgment causes next successful attacks to also heal the attacker. Level 50, we have Sanctified Wrath. Avenger's Wrath lasts 25% longer, causes Judgment to generate 1 additional holy power. Versus Righteous Protector. Each holy power spent reduces the remaining cooldown of Avenging Wrath and Guardian of Ancient Kings. So you'll now have a way to reduce your wings as well as your big defensive. Final Stand. During Divine Shield, all targets within 15 yards are taunted. So they moved some of the talents around, and now I feel like it's going to be a very interesting choice which talents are going to be very competitive. I like this row in the 25 with Moment of Glory and First Avenger. This could be very interesting to see which one of these is going to be really good, because First Avenger is going to bounce to 2 additional targets. It already bounces to 3 enemies, so you can bounce to 5. So in a massive M+ group, you might want to run First Avenger for that shield. It could potentially be good. Redoubt is an interesting choice too. We also have Righteous Protector being changed, so Guardian of Ancient Kings can come back. This is probably going to be the best one for the raiding environment. Final Stand is still real strong, but it's weird to have this here and here just because they're so competitive against one another. And then Sanctified Wrath for longer wings and extra holy power generation during that. I wonder how big this level 40 row is going to affect Protection Paladin as well. So how does a Paladin feel in terms of the playstyle itself? Well, I would say if you like the current Paladin and how it feels right now, it feels pretty good. The biggest thing that you are going to notice with your Paladin though is now that your Holy Shield, Shield of Righteous, is going to cost holy power. So you're not going to be able to close the gap with a boss or any enemies and then pop your shield at the very beginning. And also you have other abilities like Word of Glory that also take holy power to heal you. And that's going to be part of your main mechanic. But the thing is, Judgment does reduce the Word of Glory cost for holy power by 1 per Judgment. So essentially you can kind of ignore the holy power cost for it unless it's like an emergency. And generate holy power pretty well. If holy power is an issue, you can always start with First Holy Avenger so you can get yourself really going at the beginning. Sanctified Wrath can also help alleviate that as well, and you can even use Blessed Hammers from the beginning. Throw in Judgment twice at the very beginning, so maybe Paladins will just start into a less melee focus, start with a boss or something, right? Because you want to make sure you have holy power to activate Shield of Righteous to get the armor increase from it. Maybe a Paladin will just start the fight with shield, and they'll just kind of guide the boss into position as the train dummy would normally as a boss travel to me, I would be able to get off a single Avenger shield, double judgment. I have now 2 stacks of Shining Light. I have enough holy power to go for the shield. Then I'll go for a big old shield slam to activate my armor, and I'll go back to generating holy power. And as I'm taking damage, I can heal myself with Word of Glory, and I can maintain my shield. And I believe you might actually be able to have maintenance of Shield of Righteous basically almost always. So constant armor generation from that ability, and a heal as a reserve in case things really go bad. Which the heal is also, or I guess Shield of Righteous is off GCD, so you're able to get your heals off and all your other abilities. And if you're playing with Divine Purpose, you might even be able to get yourself some cooldowns back a little faster. This could be a really interesting playstyle. The fact that you have now cooldown reduction with this talent, Righteous Protector, could be huge for getting yourself Guardian of Ancient Kings up and running far more often. So this is very interesting. Then you also have Hammer Wrath, which will also be another holy power generator and will have the effect of during wings you're able to use it as well. So that's another ability to generate holy power. So essentially Paladin should be very sturdy this expansion. And lastly, we have ourselves Retribution Paladin, and they've got some of the best changes, I feel like, in this expansion. Not really Retribution Paladin changes, there's some, but the fact that they're more a Paladin than just a Red Paladin, that's the part that makes me really excited. For the Retribution abilities, you have Blade of Justice that generates 2 holy power for 10-second cooldown, but it's reduced with haste. Cleanse Toxins to take off poison disease. Divine Storm, quite a bit of damage to 5 nearby enemies, so capping the AoE on this ability. Hand of Hindrance, 30-second cooldown, 10 seconds of a slow on your enemy. Rebuke for the interrupt. Shield of Vengeance for the big shield that will expire and be popped back at the enemy, divided amongst nearby enemies. Templar's Verdict for 3 holy power, bunch of holy damage to a single enemy. Wake of Ashes becoming baseline, 45-second cooldown, does a bunch of damage in the cone in front of you for 12 yards. It will reduce movement speed of enemies by 50% for 5 seconds. Damage reduced on secondary targets, so this is less of an AoE ability, more single target. This kind of lame because, again, the cap in AoE for a lot of classes. Demons and Undead are also stunned by 5 seconds. I feel like that would be very useful in expansion of Shadowlands. Generates only 3 holy power, so that's a pretty big change. Art of War, your auto takes over 12% chance to reset the cooldown of Blade of Justice, and Mastery Handle Light increases holy damage done by a percentage. Take a look at the Retribution Paladin talents. First row is going to have Zeal, which is the same as Live, with Righteous Verdict on the same row, and Execution Sentence. On level 25, you have Fires of Justice, Blades of Wrath, which is all exactly the same. I believe, no, this one is the same. They might have changed the cooldown or the chances for it to proc and the damage numbers, but I'm not quite sure. But Imperium Power is going to be the last one in the row. Crusader Strike has a 20% chance to make your next Divine Storm free and deal 50% additional damage, which I feel like that would fit really well in this row, since now you have Hammer Wrath baseline. Level 30, you have Fist of Justice, Repentance, and Blinding Light as the other Paladins, and in the same row, 35, Unbreakable Spirit, Cavalier, and one difference with Eye for an Eye, 1 mana cooldown reducing physical damage by 35%, dealing physical damage back to enemy attackers for 10 seconds. In level 40 is Divine Purpose, Holy Avenger, and Seraphim like the other specs of Paladin. Level 45, you got Selfless Healer. Your holy power spending abilities reduce the cast time of an Flash of Light by 25%, increase its healing by 10%, stacking up to 4 times. Doesn't have mana cost reductions. Mana is going to be more important for Retribution Paladins in this expansion, which might make other talents in this row also competitive, like Justicar's Vengeance, does holy damage and will heal you based on damage done, does 50% more damage if it's a stun target on a 5 holy power. Or Healing Hands. When you lay on hands on an ally that has less than 30% health, the cooldown of laying hands is reduced by 50%. This could make it really strong for Retribution Paladins in dungeons and raids, especially for long-term fights, but I would say better in dungeons as an emergency healer. At level 50, we have Sanctified Wrath. Avenging Wrath lasts 25% longer. During Avenging Wrath, each holy power spent causes you to explode with Holy Light for damage to nearby enemies. This is just a trait ripped into talents, does not have a target cap or a drop off, so this might be good for AoE. We have Crusade, 2 minute cooldown, and it has a haste build up together with a damage build up, but it needs to be stacked, so it's a little different than your Avenging Wrath. Then we have Inquisition. 1 to 3 holy power consumes up to 3 holy power to increase your damage done and haste by 7%. Last 15 seconds per holy power consumed. So let me first show you what I mean when I say Retribution Paladins and mana might be more of a priority. Let's say you have an ally inside of a dungeon or a raid and you're willing to heal him. Let's say you get yourself some selfless healer, you'll go and get yourself some bunch of procs, you'll try to do a bit of damage to the enemy. You'll start off with big numbers, popping wings, trying to get as much damage into the enemy. You have yourself your selfless healer building up. Or maybe you can imagine yourself inside of a dungeon and the tank has made too big of a pull and they're gonna die. You're trying to desperately help out the healer and you're just trying to heal them. You'll get yourself a free, or almost a free proc, insta-cast proc of selfless healer, which will cost mana. And you'll continue to heal tank, trying to make sure they don't die. And you can actually heal yourself completely out of mana. Let's say you're just trying desperately to heal him up and running. And now you can't Crusader Strike. And if you're trying to keep Crusader Strike on cooldown and you don't have any other abilities to generate your holy power, you can essentially just keep your own mana down as a Retribution Paladin. So I don't think a lot of you guys are going to fall into this issue, but it is potentially possible to just put yourself in such a mana unrecoverable position where you can't even get those procs of Selfless Healer. So that's something you guys might need to watch out for. They might need to adjust the mana cost of certain abilities, or maybe add no mana usage for Flashlight. But if you Flashlight at too low on mana, it can really put you in a weird situation. So I'm thinking maybe Healing Hands might be a better choice in dungeon scenario, because you don't really want to use Selfless Healer. I mean, you'll use it in emergency, but mana matters now, so I just find that very, very interesting interaction. Again, I don't hate it. I actually kind of love it, that there's this importance, and it really is going to make a regular Paladin think twice before they really pop all their damage and abilities. So take a look at some of the other things that a Paladin can do. Is Hand of Blessing of Sacrifice is huge. You'll be able to allow 30% damage reduction to an ally, and it will stop when you drop below 30% health is amazing. I mean, I think it's awesome. I think the fact that Paladins can finally feel like they can help their allies, because in BFA right now, all you can do is really heal an ally, or put Blessing of Protection, or give them Blessing of Wisdom, or Kings, which Blessing of Wisdom and Kings are gone, by the way, which I think it's fine, because the utility you're given with this, with Blessing of Sacrifice, is huge. And maybe this whole mana thing is on purpose so that you actually have a use for the Word of Glory. If, let's say, you're in a dire situation and an ally of yours is really going to melt and you really need to give them heal, you might need to sacrifice your damage so that they can live another day. And that, I think, could be very interesting, to put Paladins in such a situation where it's like, wait, I actually need to sacrifice my damage so that an ally can live. It does allow you to play the hybrid playstyle of doing good heals. You'll actually throw a solid heal to an ally, but at a cost of your own damage, which, again, I cannot hate. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this first look on Paladins in Shadowlands. I am personally very excited to see what they're going to look like, but so far, I think they're actually in a cool position. I noticed that Paladins didn't really get too much change in their basic rotation, but what I'm really happy with is the utility. And in some sense, to me, it feels that Paladins don't really feel like a Red Paladin or a Proud Paladin or a Holy Paladin, but rather you're a Paladin. You have certain utilities that a Paladin brings, which I think is going to be great for the longevity if you do decide to play this class, at least so far. They might completely strip it in the future, but in the current Shadowlands preview, I think it's just very exciting to see where they're at, and I'm very excited to see what's going to happen with this class for the future next expansion. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts about Paladins and Shadowlands, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.